Ladies and gentlemen, please begin moving to your seats. The panel session will begin in about 2 minutes. At this time, please turn off or set to silent your electronic devices. As a reminder, before we get started, audience members will be invited to ask questions from the standing mics on the floor at the appropriate time. Also note that this attendance at this session has continuing education approvals. If you are a member seeking attendance documentation, please be sure to scan your badge at the scanner located in the back of the seating area at the conclusion of this session. Scanners shut off 15 minutes post-session, so please get your badge scanned before networking with the panel participants. Please take your seats. The panel is about to begin. Please welcome Colonel Mike Black, U.S. Air Force retired, Vice President for Defense, AFCEA International, to the stage.
Well, good afternoon. Some people know me. Good afternoon. All right, thank you. And welcome to the Balancing Innovation, Cybersecurity, How Can We Accelerate Capability Development Without Compromising Security panel. Now, before I get started, I'd like to take a moment to thank Maximus for their sponsorship of this panel session. Maximus is represented this afternoon by Roland Fagali, Director of Digital Platform Services. So please join me in welcoming Roland to the stage for a few brief remarks.
Thank you. Good afternoon. There we go. Good, good. See, from the first time they got it. I'm Roland Fagali. I am a Senior Director for Digital Platform and Services at Maximus. I joined this team at a very exciting time where we are pivoting this family of disruptors to bring innovative and operationally proven ideas from industry and the federal government over to the Department of Defense and the Department of the Navy in particular. Our outcome-driven and human-centered problem solving to traditional and new challenges is a fresh approach to the Navy. We are excited to partner with government and industry colleagues to keep the Navy the most formidable naval force. Please engage my colleagues and I on the conference floor, and if you are inclined, we have a room reserved, room 108, across the hall in ballroom 6. On behalf of West 25, I am happy to welcome you to this panel discussion. This engaging panel will be moderated with retired Lieutenant General Susan Lawrence, who is currently serving as the President and Chief Executive Officer of AFCEA International. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Roland. Now I have the pleasure and the pressure of introducing General Lawrence. She's my boss. Lieutenant General Lawrence, Army retired, and President and CEO of AFCEA International. General Lawrence's remarkable Army career, in which she went from E1 to 09, culminated with her assignment as the Army CIO G6, where she managed the Defense Enterprise Systems, IT infrastructure, C4 solutions, and advanced technology used by the military warfighter and supporting the civilian workforce. Additionally, she helped develop Army Cyber Command and worked directly with senior staff members, including the Secretary and the Chief of Staff of the Army, to reduce costs, and improve the effectiveness of cyber and other IT solutions. She's a leader in the defense information technology and communication systems, and after retiring from the Army before coming to AFCEA, she worked with Booz Allen and Accenture Federal Services. She joined AFCEA about 3 years ago, in January of 22, and was our organization's first female president and CEO. General Lawrence, thank you and all the panelists for joining us today, and I turn it over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Well, it is great to be here. Ben, can you hear me back there? You stand up and wave at us if we start having volume problems, because all this great networking is going on out there, and our meeting with our industry partners and whatnot, but I want to make sure that our panel is amazing, and I want to make sure that you all have a great opportunity to hear what they have to offer this afternoon. If you see all these amazing men and women here up front in uniform, I could not be more proud. They are winners of our Enlisted Superior Awards, and I would ask that everybody stay at the conclusion of this, and we are going to recognize these fabulous men and women for their contributions to our nation. So thank you all for your service. So this year's panel, the theme is really important. The future is now. And what does that mean when we look at the different threats around the world? We recently returned from TechNet Indo-Pacific, where the commander, Admiral Papara, said, and we all know the big 2027 date looming in front of us when China has said they are prepared to return Taiwan, and the different things going on in the theater there. Well, Admiral Papara says it's now. Our future is now, and we have to be ready to go now. And so this panel, I'm excited about having set it up, but it's talking about balancing innovation and cybersecurity. How can we accelerate capability development without compromising security? And all you have to do is pick up the paper every day, and there is a nation state out there attempting to find out what you are doing, whether it's balloons in the skies, listening on our teleworks. We've uncovered many, many different examples of things happening out there. So what do we have to do to make sure that we are doing everything we can to support our warfighters so they can fight tonight? And that's what this panel is going to talk about, is those challenges. And the one thing that we know for sure, it's complex. It is very complex. But what we are going to do is ensure we are resilient and that we can deliver what we need to deliver. I'm very excited about the panel members today, and I'm just going to spend a few minutes to introduce them and then ask them to say a few words, and then we're going to come back, do a couple questions, and right back in the middle there are microphones standing. We really, really would like to hear from you and what questions you have of our experts here on the panel today. So as we're going through this, please think about your questions. So first, we have Ms. Jane Rathbun, the Chief Information Officer of the Department of the Navy. Ms. Rathbun has had a diverse civilian career in government, driving change, initiatives, and advances across the key government and defense processes. Prior to her role as the DoD CIO, she served in a dual-hatted capacity as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Information Warfare and Enterprise Services, and as the DON's Chief Technology Officer. Ma'am, over to you.
Susan, I want to thank you for inviting me to speak here, and I want to thank our sponsors and welcome the audience. It's really nice to see the young sailors and Marines up front and center. Even if you didn't want to be here, thank you for being here. My name is Jane Rathbun. As Susan said, I am your DoD CIO. I have the honor of serving with General Carter and with Admiral Thomas as the CIOs of the services, and together we are driving innovation and change in this space to meet the sailors and the Marines' warfighting needs. I am responsible for kind of setting direction, guidance, shaping, and then working with my service counterparts and the other Secretariat members to drive that change to reality. We just recently published our Information Security 2.0 document, which is really our overarching strategy document that focuses on optimizing our naval information ecosystem, securing it, and getting data to where it needs to be securely so that we can decide and act faster than our enemy. And I take that very seriously. The ISV 2.0 is based on what we've learned over the last 5 years in this space, how we can go fast, getting better at the business of IT, and really delivering superior capability to the warfighter. We've got a lot of examples of where we've done that. Both the Navy and Marine Corps have deployed flank speed and Hyperion Microsoft Azure platforms that they intend on taking with them all the way to the edge. We are Zero Trust aligned with both of those platforms. That's a huge feat, very important to cybersecurity to be Zero Trust aligned. And so I feel really good about where we're headed. And where we're headed is making sure that we deliver capability in the time of need, now, the future is now, that is modern, secure, improves your experience, and provides the operational resilience that is necessary to operate through any challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next distinguished panelist is Lieutenant General Jerry Carter, the Deputy Commandant for Information for the Marine Corps. General Carter enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1985 and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1992 and was awarded the Signals Intelligence Electronic Warfare Military Occupational Specialty. Before becoming a Marine Air Ground Task Force Intelligence Officer, he has held a variety of staff and command positions, recently serving as the NSA Cybersecurity Directorate Deputy Director for Combat Support before assuming his current position. General, over to you, sir. It's on, sir.
It's on.
Oh, okay. All right, ma'am, thank you very much. I really appreciate your leadership, leading AFCIA, inviting us out here to talk about these very important issues over many years, and I'm honored, ma'am, to serve beside you, get your guidance and direction as you serve as a DoD CIO, and certainly my teammate over here, definitely naval in nature. Again, Jerry Carter, I'm really pleased to be here, and as I look out at the audience, it's not a loss upon me about the topic that we're discussing today, balancing innovation with cybersecurity, and really what it means and what it matters is to the warfighters that are sitting in front of us. Warfighters at different levels, all the way to the tactical edge, the capabilities that we need to bring to warfighters, that is you. And so I applaud you. You are the future of our service, and I thank you much. Also, as I scanned the crowd, I was incredibly comfortable as I sat down, but I saw a couple of my mentors come in and sit down. General Craparata, sir, thanks. General Alford, good teammate, but really pleased to be here. As we look across the landscape, as I get settled in as Deputy Commandant of Information, the guidance from the Commandant is extremely clear that in my portfolio specifically, that is Intel, C4, as well as cyber, move faster. And that is faster about getting the capabilities out to the warfighters, but as my teammate here said, we have to do it in a very deliberate and responsible way. And so as we take on the very daunting challenge in the Marine Corps, the balancing act is absolutely for real. And but I look forward to, and I'm up to the task, up to the challenge, and I look forward to serving all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next panelist is Rear Admiral Vince Shunkiao, Deputy Director, Command Control Communications and Computer Cyber Systems, on the Joint Staff J6. Admiral Chung Kiao graduated from the Naval Academy in 1996 and later earned his Master of Science in Systems Engineering from Naval Postgraduate School. I'm assuming that's NPS? All right. He is Qualified Surface Warfare Officer, Information Warfare Officer, and Joint Specialty Officer. He most recently served as the Maritime Operations Center Director for Fleet Cyber Command, Navy Space Command, and 10th Fleet, before reporting to the Joint Staff in April of 2024. Over to you, sir.
All right, General Lawrence, thank you so much. And I want to thank AFCEA and USNI for putting on such a great event this week. Yesterday I had a lot of opportunity to sit and talk with a lot of you here in the audience and roam around the floor. And it's just eye-watering, the talent that's abundant here in this conference. Whether you're in uniform, government, civilian, or contractor, there is a lot of power present in this conference. So it's an honor to be here and an honor to sit with these panelists. When it comes to the Joint Staff, not a lot of folks are familiar with what the Joint Staff does. The Joint Chiefs of Staff includes the Chairman of the Joint Staff, that's Chairman General Brown, and then the Vice Chairman Admiral Grady. And along with the service chiefs, the Joint Chiefs of Staff are the advisors to the Secretary of Defense and the President and providing their best military advice. The Joint Staff, which I'm a part of, and in particular the J6, we focus on all the things that's being discussed here during this conference. So whether it's satellite communications, cybersecurity, offensive cyber, position navigation and timing, cryptology, all of those things are within the portfolio of the Joint Staff J6. So it's an honor to be here with the panel, and I'm excited to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So again, I ask you all to think about the questions. We want to hear from you. I have enough questions to keep us busy for our hour up here, but it's more important that we dialogue with you and we hear from you what your thoughts are, challenges, the things that keep you up at night, and what you're thinking about, and how these great leaders up here on the stage are going to work through those things. So again, there's a microphone on this side and one on that side, and I will watch for you to come up. And some of the people on the panel know me, and we've had the opportunity to serve on panels before. I am not shy about coming out and asking you questions. So make it easy on yourself.
I can attest to this.
So let me start with you again, Ms. Raffin. We talked about the futures now, and how are we going to balance our warfighting needs while still facing and moving forward when it comes to innovation and cybersecurity. So what does it look like today in the department, and are we ready?
Yeah, great question. We're readier than we were. We have work to do. We need to move faster. We've heard that from all of our military leaders, that the time is now to get this right. With the Davidson window, where we can really have an impact is in this portfolio, this IT platform, being able to maneuver data securely from anywhere to anywhere. With the platforms we are operating on, there is lots of opportunity to move fast here. And the question about how do you balance innovation with cybersecurity, it's not a balance. It is not an either or, it's a yes and. We have to really think about innovation with cyber operations in mind. When we talk about future capabilities, I constantly say we have the warfighter requirement, and part of that warfighting requirement is the cyber operators requirement. If they cannot command and control this space, we are not secure, you are not secure. And so that is our foremost important to how we approach innovation. Is we want to move fast, we want to be innovating constantly, have a foot in what we're doing today, but also looking what's coming down the pike in this space. Things change very rapidly. This year, the last year and a half, LLMs, AI are the new buzzwords. They're the new cloud, right? Everyone wants to talk about AI, how we can use that. So we want to use it. We want to use these LLMs, but we don't want to do it in an unsecure manner where we're putting our information at risk. And so we have to balance. The balance part there is we have to think about cybersecurity when deploying new capabilities. Upfront, from the design phase forward, our whole approach to cyber ready is about moving away from this ATO process that we give every 3 years and having you live and breathe cybersecurity, again, from the design phase all the way to the disposal phase. What is it? How am I going to ensure that I can assess threat continuously on my systems, that you have the information you need at the right time to make a decision about the risk you're taking with the system that you are using, that you understand the cybersecurity risks along with the core warfighting risk. And so our job is to help build this culture of cybersecurity so it's very natural to you, that it's not an afterthought, it's not something that I'm bolting on, it's actually something that lives and breathes along with the innovation that we're delivering to you. We are very pro zero trust. How do you know the person who's accessing the information, the device they're on, and that what the classification level and the importance of the data and the risk of loss of that data. And so those principles have to be woven into everything that we bring to the table to operate in the warfight.
And I'll come back a little bit later after our audience starts asking questions. Sir, how does the Department of Defense assess and prioritize threats to determine where to focus our innovation efforts? And I'm going to add on that.
Yeah,
We have limited resources.
Yeah.
How do we prioritize and identify those?
Yeah, and let me, and thanks for the question, ma'am. I really do. And based on my background, as you heard, I spent my entire professional career in the intel community. And just most recently, I've been really forced to use the other side of my brain when it comes to cybersecurity. So as I was growing up as an intel professional, if you would have told me that, hey, I need to talk to you about cybersecurity, I would have told you, oh, you got the wrong guy. I'm the J2. Go talk to the J6. The other thing I would tell you that, hey, the cybersecurity, what I've learned along the way, it's not just a J6 problem. I mean, it's all of our problems. It doesn't matter what MOS you're in, what business you're in today's fight, in the future fight, you have to pay attention to cybersecurity. And I would tell you, ma'am, it absolutely starts with the threat. And so in the Marine Corps, we think a lot about capability development, and I'm proud to say that the Commandant always starts with the threat. My teammate down in Quantico, Smash Alston, who is the general that does and in charge of capabilities development, it's completely integrated, but it starts with the threat. And I will tell you, the way the threat moves inside of the cybersecurity environment, the innovation or information sphere, it is moving very, very fast, and we have to pay attention. So starting with the threat, integrating that threat perspective throughout really allows us to focus on developing those high-end capabilities that we need to win the future fight.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. In fact, we are, FC is meeting with the leadership in the Department of Defense. In a couple of weeks, we're going to do a seminar on addressing the cyber workforce and how and where are we going to continue to build that critical need as we go forward. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Thank you.
Okay, Admiral Sheng Kiao, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. This is something we've been hearing about and talking about for a while, so I would really like your thoughts and your vision on how the role of Coalition Joint All-Domain Command and Control, CJADC2, is enhancing both our interoperability and our cybersecurity environment.
Yeah, that's a great question. So CJAD C2, a buzzword for many, coalition, joint, all-domain command and control. And when I say CJAD C2, what I want you to think of is when we talk innovation and modernization, think joint functions and how we modernize C2. That's what CJAD C2 is. It's an emphasis on the importance of operating with our allies and partners and in a joint environment. And that's why C2 is preceded with those acronyms. Now, when it comes to innovation and cybersecurity, CJAD C2, I'm also a co-chair, soon to be co-chair of a cross-functional team for CJAD C2. And recently, a capabilities, initial capabilities document was approved by the JROC for CJAD C2. And what this does is it provides a framework that really defines what C2 or CJAD C2 is. And it's defined by these 4 requirements. 1, the ability to provide situational awareness. 2, the ability to plan across all joint functions. 3, the ability to provide force direction through components. And then 4, to operate with allies and partners. So those 4 things really encompass what CJAD C2 is. And I think one of the key aspects to the question, ma'am, is the fact that we will operate with our allies and partners in time of conflict. So the ability to define those requirements early, to develop a reference design and a reference architecture which gets at supporting those requirements that I spoke of. And when we get to the design phase, with Ms. Rathman, said we've got to have cybersecurity right at the onset. All of those things together, I think, are how CJAD C2 plays a part in innovation in cybersecurity. There's various technologies as you walk the floor that support those 4 requirements. So part of that is also, as a Department of Defense, where resources are at an optimum, and how we optimize those resources is looking across the services, the joint force, and understanding how we can best meet the requirements of the warfighter, whether that's combat commands in particular. Thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up. We just recently attended TechNet Transatlantic, and that is our allies and our partners' #1 concern, is how they're fitting into the CJAD T2 architecture and how we're going to make that happen. So it's great that you're taking that on initially. Paul, General Paul Fredenberg. You see that Marine standing up behind that microphone? Get his name, because he just got a membership to AFCEA, because he's a leader. Okay, sir, what is your question?
With technology constantly changing, are there any plans to make it easier on the maintainers to transition, like with the F-35 program, we're transitioning to TR-3, and I'd like to know if there's anything that's going to help us in the future when we go on to TR-4, TR-5, TR-6.
Superb question, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll just start, and obviously you guys could add, but I think that's a great question, and I think if that's also not in our vocabulary when we're thinking about future architectures and design, how easy is it going to be on the operator to maintain and to fix in the field, then we failed you. And so I can't talk for the F-35, very complicated program, but in the ecosystem that we're a part of, that is something that we do take into account. How can we automate things? How can we provide you dashboards and triggers that give you the information that you need? And how do we simplify the architecture so that you're not having to look at 15 systems separately, but that we've thought about the end-to-end architecture of the IT platform, the ecosystem, and we've also thought about the cybersecurity of that ecosystem with the end user in mind. And so one of the things that I think we need to innovate in space is how we actually build capability. We have a traditional process that starts with an ICD requirement, moves into a resourcing phase, moves into an acquisition strategy development, and then we start design. In the future, I think everybody needs to be in the same car. The operator, yourself, the acquirer, the resource sponsor, the requirements representative of the operator, and the industry partner that's working with us. You got to be all in the car up front at the beginning. We cannot do it in a linear fashion. We won't get there fast enough in this space, and we will potentially leave you hanging, and that is not our goal. Matt Schwartz from Fleet Forces talked on Monday about the fact that 50% of our systems do not meet the cybersecurity requirements that they're supposed to have when they're fielded. That is unacceptable from my perspective, and we will work with our acquisition counterparts to really drive change there so that we are getting to cybersecurity the same day we deliver, and that the training is there that you need, and hopefully not complicated. Something as intuitive as you picking up a new app on your iPhone and understanding how to use it immediately without instruction. We do have some examples of that happening in the fleet today. More of that is needed.
Yeah, and can I just build, and I couldn't agree more than with Rathman. What a great question, and I will tell you that in terms of getting the capabilities and to make the end user, the warfighter's job easier, that is an operational imperative. It's a must. And so the answer is yes, and if we're not doing that, I charge you to hold us accountable. In fact, I'd like to meet you afterwards to talk about your specific problem. But let me just highlight a couple things where it's important. And it's a theme that both of my colleagues talk about. It is artificial intelligence and machine learning, large language models, and most importantly, it's the human and machine teaming. The way technology is moving into the operational imperative, we have to keep up with it, and we have to give you the ability to leverage those tools and allow machines to do really well what they do best and allow you to focus on other things without forgetting about the importance of cybersecurity. Absolute must, but I appreciate the question.
Yeah, and I'll just pile on. It's when we talk innovation, I think there also has to be innovation in how we train and get capabilities, to full operational capability. We've got workup cycles before deployment. We've got A schools and C schools. But with the rapid change of technology, as Ms. Rathman said, from the onset in the design phase, we need to understand that, hey, this is going to go into the hands of an operator maintainer, and the sooner that they can understand that system, the sooner that they can understand how to repair it, the better off we are. So I think one of the ways we can do that as part of that production is through iterative experimentation. So maybe not necessarily with the F-35, but other systems as they answer some requirements and they're in their initial phase of development. Getting them out there in the hands of the warfighters early in an experimental environment, I think, is important. You get iterative feedback, and it's an environment that it's okay to fail in, right? And when you fail, that's when you're learning, and then you can update as you move forward in that design phase.
Thank you very much.
Got EDM right for now.
Yeah. So I don't wear General Fredenberg out, who's chasing down the person who asked the question. If you are an enlisted superior performance winner and you're asking a question today, at the end, bring me your name and address, and we will get you signed up for AFCEA. And we really appreciate participation, because hearing from you is where we get smarter, because you're the ones on the ground, out there at that pointy tip of the spear, and making these things happen. So please ask us your questions. What do we need to be doing for you? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Cooper Garcia with BMFAT 502. Good afternoon, audience as well, ladies and gentlemen. My question is, as small unit leaders and basically the backbone of the United States Marine Corps, how can we implement this new concept of the future within cyber awareness as a small unit leader level?
Hey, if I could start, because I'm super passionate about it. I'm joined by my teammate, Master Gunny Sammy Castro, all the way in the back. And I'm going to channel some of his best efforts into this, because he's passionate about training and what we need to do, as you said, the backbone of our Corps, small unit leaders. and that is we need to give some of these training opportunities and bring it, meet you where you're at. And sometimes that's in a barracks room. It's out on, I'm going out to 29 Palms tomorrow. It is in the training cycles before you get to high-end conflict. And sometimes we won't even get to high-end conflict. It might be in the competition phase. So bringing the training to you in the form that you're comfortable with, because the generation you're growing up with, and you all know this, you are digital natives, while some of us are digital immigrants. We're still learning, but you're very, very comfortable with some of that technology. So the Apple Vision Pro and some of the other things that we see that you're super comfortable with, gaming and things of that nature, that's where we need to meet you at and understand how you train. And then finally, for the cyber perspective, this live virtual constructive training, my good friend, Lieutenant General Ben Watson and his team at TCOM are really working hard to meet the Marines where they're at when it comes to training. So I appreciate the question.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll just extend that to not just you and your unit, but to your family and friends, right? And just being self-educating and being aware of what the issues are out there, and then sharing that and applying that in practice, whether it's with your own mobile devices and the Internet of Things, because everything is connected now, right? So understanding how that impacts you and taking some time to read how you can secure that and understanding the vulnerabilities, I think, is key. And I think that also extends, to our industry partners as well. A lot of great capability there, and your ability to help protect that information as well as you develop these capabilities for us.
So great answers. The only thing I would add is we have an initiative called Cyber Ready. The Department of Navy has an initiative called Cyber Ready, and it's really living and breathing it every day. And so how it's not in the DERS system, right now. You don't have a cyber readiness checkbox. But how exactly what these gentlemen said, how you live and breathe it, how you think about your own personal cybersecurity, and then asking if you don't feel good about the equipment you're operating or the ecosystem that you're in, that you really have the knowledge about cybersecurity, you need to let people know so that we can figure out how better to give you that information.
Great question. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I am OS1 Lacey with ComNav SurfPack, and then my just question was going to be asking in reference to the artificial intelligence, what kind of systems or integration we are going to perhaps see in the future as we move forward.
Great question. And so just first and foremost, the Department of Navy has been doing artificial intelligence. Navy and Marine Corps has been doing artificial intelligence for a really long time in their systems. What's new is the large language modeling and the prompt engineering that makes it more accessible to everyone, and the commercial tools that are now in the space, and how do we integrate those capabilities. I do think that it'll be a journey, and that we are right now at my level working on guidance for how we create large language model sandboxes for you all to work in and to experiment with and identify, because you're the ones who are going to be innovators here. You're going to identify the ways that this capability can make your job easier, and then figure out how we make that the standard for what you learned across your ecosystem. And so lots of promise there. Agentic AI, I think the General talked about how it's going to be your partner. I do see that that's our future, but how we get there and ensuring cybersecurity. I mean, I think you saw the news about DeepSeek yesterday, like cheaper than anything that the U.S. Is producing in that space, but also all Chinese. And we have to be concerned about the cybersecurity there. So what we don't want to do, and what we've done in the past, is let 1,000 flowers bloom in 1,000 pots. We have to figure out how to leverage this technology in a smart, secure way, not to slow down innovation, but to do it in a way that we can capture it and know that we're not losing information to our enemy.
Yeah, I want to point out that when artificial intelligence and machine learning, very futuristic disruptive technology, and I want to highlight that our senior leaders in the military are very much into maximizing the use of that. So the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the vice chairman press the joint staff and the OSD's chief digital and artificial intelligence office to get us some of those capabilities. As Ms. Rathman says, we're very early on in that stage there, but to the topic of this conference in cybersecurity, I would say that's a great area where we could leverage artificial intelligence. There's just so much data when it comes to cybersecurity going across the networks, and whether it's trying to be predictive as to a potential attack that's occurring, or even with forensics in analyzing the fingerprints of what happened in that forensics, leveraging artificial intelligence and all the data that we've got now to help us in those areas.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Logan Willman. I'm with the Defense Counterintelligence Security Agency, but also a Marine Reservist with the Marine Innovation Unit. Whether Volt Typhoon or any number of other named APT actors, our pacing threat is currently targeting critical infrastructure, commercial entities, as well as our cleared industry almost indiscriminately. And yet our formal acquisitions processes, to include even rapid acquisitions process, only leverage many of our protection protocols very late in the process. Do you have specific examples of how you would like to see some of the intelligence or capability protection mechanisms that the DoD or whole of government possesses leveraged earlier in that process to help protect innovation within industry?
You're pushing on a hot button for me. And part of that is what I've learned in my time in the cybersecurity directorate at NSA, and you make an important point. So those are really not tracking. So Volt Typhoon and Salt Typhoon, it is now that we see the adversary, they're up to something nefarious activity. How do you get that information out to the general public and our industry partners so they are aware? And so those two efforts, as you said, attacking the critical infrastructure and our defense industrial base, how do you prevent that? First and foremost, you have to understand the threat, and then you have to educate those that are not in the classified space. So bringing that high-end intelligence down to the right level and then sharing it out with your partners. My teammates talked about different partners, but I would just underscore it's not just our coalition partners, but our industry partners as well. And when you think about our unique capabilities that we depend on to fight and win in conflict, it's our industry partners that build those capabilities. And in the past, we didn't have to really worry too much about the technology that they were building back in homeland, home station. But what we're finding today is that the adversary, as you pointed out, sir, they're now attacking that very soft underbelly of our industry partners. So the key is together, that is military, the intelligence community, the federal government, sharing what we know about the threats and then helping each other build up our cybersecurity mechanisms and our defense to be successful in the future. But I appreciate the question.
Yeah, I'm just going to add a little bit to that. So we think this is a really important area. We all do, as the general said. What we're doing in the Department of Navy with our cyber components is we are evaluating industry protocols and practices, looking at what they're doing, especially our very strategic partners. We're sharing very classified cyber information with them when we think it's going to impact their ability to deliver for us. And it is not a matter that I can pivot to something else necessarily, though we do want operational redundancy everywhere we can get it. But they need to know what we see, and sometimes they don't, so that they can make good, smart investments to give us the capability that we know will be cyber secure. We have just launched an effort with the DoD CIO and the other services on post-quantum resistant crypto. We understand that there is a lot of work to do in that space with our big providers, making sure that what they're developing, how they're developing, meets our standards, because post-quantum resistant crypto is not going to be a one-size-fits-all kind of proposition. It is going to require understanding of our mission use cases, understanding of our use of spectrum, and so engaging them and working with them so that when they come to us and say they have post-quantum resistant crypto built in, we can say, yes, you do, or we can say, no, you don't, we're not going to buy from you. And so that's changing. And so that's a set of workforce and a set of skills that we maybe didn't think about the way we do now. But one thing the cyber operators have taught me in the last 2 years is they come to me all the time and say, did you know this company, X, Y, and Z, isn't cutting mustard? And so we like their product, we want to work with it, we're going to work with you to figure out how you make it cyber secure. I spent all day on Friday with one of our partners having this very conversation. One, you need to move faster because we need these skills in our warfighting ecosystem. And two, you need to make sure you take into account all the cyber threats that we see. And they were very willing to do that. So that is the way we're going to approach it going forward.
Yeah, Jane, and I'll just add, in addition to us sharing that information to our partners, it goes both ways. A lot of times, our partners, industry, the commercial sector, are detecting anomalous activity or seeing something that's not right, and their ability to share that quickly out, whether that's to the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency or CISA, or to U.S. Cyber Command, depending on what the network is. Sometimes that's our first notification of something that is wrong. So sharing of information both ways, I think, is important. And I'd also like to add, there's multiple ways that we can get at improving that. Looking at our governance models, which are suboptimal, I'll say, as how we look at risk, compliance versus operational risk. So there's different ways, I think, whether through governance, our acquisition pathways, that we can look at mitigating that risk. I think one of the kind of big mindset changes that's talked a lot about is moving from this a net-centric environment and looking at, and that net-centric is, firewalls, what's our boundaries, how are we protecting that, defense in depth, et cetera, to a more data-centric. What is the data that we're protecting? What does that data look like? With the mindset that the adversary is in the network, which is why we think that way, because that's what competition looks like, right? We're going to come up with some new way to protect something, and the adversary is going to figure out what they can do to get through that new thing, right? And that's competition, and we're constantly going through that. So at what level do you start implementing security? And I think a lot of that is at the data layer.
Great point.
Yeah. Good points. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Koplovoki, BMFA 311. My question for you, as a small unit leader, I realized being fifth generation aircraft, third mile wing, we have a lot of new assets coming in the military or the Marine Corps, or Naval Aviation Forces, and we have a much harder time getting those in. How do you want the unit leaders to go about this process, as I've been having a hard time ordering anything through my level of things, and it's just like I can barely get things done at my level.
Yeah, I can sense your frustration, and my master guns I pointed out, I'm going to ask him to get your name as well, because we got to take that bureaucracy out of your way. At your level, we want you to spend a good portion of your time being efficient and effective. And so I'd like to talk to you offline with more details, but in general, that's what we're all in the business of. I only get paid to make your job easier. And if I'm not doing my job, then I invite you, the commandant charges, that hold us accountable. You got former MEF commanders and CGs in the audience, and I'm sure they would agree with me. But to your point about bringing the capabilities down to your level, we have to do it faster, and we have to leverage technology to get us there. We get challenged at work, and then you go home and you can solve like a whole bunch of problems. Why can't we bring that capability to you in the office? So I agree with you, but I'd certainly like to talk to you offline about specifics on your challenge.
I love the audience here and the questions we're getting, because we talk innovation and development, and technology is not the barrier anymore. With the technology we have, we can solve any problem. But I love hearing the questions about how when that technology is in the hands of the operators and maintainers, how do you operate, take care of that in deployment in a combat environment. And that's something that, again, we just have to keep in mind as we talk innovation. You know, we complain about the long lead times and the process that's in place to get capabilities. And a lot of that long lead time was because of these types of issues where we realized, oh, there's a training aspect. So now we've developed a whole training structure. Oh, there's a security aspect to this. So we've got a whole certification and accreditation piece. And then now we need to swing the pendulum the other way because of the time criticality of where we need new capability, but we can't do that if the capability is deployed and not usable or operational with you all. So thank you for those questions.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Two of us, at least up here, started out as enlisted soldiers and Marines. And you have an opportunity today to talk to us and say, you know, what's on your mind when it comes to this critical, very important topic of the future is now. And how are we going to get these solutions to you in such a way that when called, you have every capability at your hand you need to fight and win our nation's wars. So thank you very much for asking these questions. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Kelly McConnell. I work for Booz Allen Hamilton and in a retired Marine Intel community. My question is, so we talk about the capabilities of our resources, our most precious being those of the Marines and sailors that work for us. What are we doing to continue to encourage them to join the military and then retain them once we give them all the skills and capabilities necessary to maintain things like cybersecurity?
Yeah, Kelly, it's great to see you again. And I'll start it because I know each of us are doing some things in our respective field, and I'll keep ours relatively short. I am proud that, you know, at the top of the Commandant's priorities, he is placing talent management and specifically people at the top of his agenda. Barracks 2030 is just one of the examples. And then we've recently done some innovative things on how we spot, assess, recruit, and retain the talent, and we're having some success. I'll just leave you with one anecdote, and this will, you know, for some, I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around, but just recently, in the past couple weeks, down at Paris Island, where we make Marines, we had a Marine go through boot camp, a 3-month process, and upon graduation, on that day he graduated, completed the task to become a Marine. In that next minute, we pinned on the rank of gunnery sergeant. Wow. Gunnery sergeant. There's a backstory there, is because this guy's got incredible experience. The other side of the story, he had 8 years of experience in the Air Force. He went out in industry and worked for almost a decade, working super high skill level software engineer, etc. He could have stayed out and wanted a lot more money, but he wanted to become a Marine. We did not lower our standards. Only one way to become a Marine. He passed the test, and because of his unique skills that he brought to the fight, we promoted him to the rank of gunnery sergeant, and rightfully so. We're super proud of that story, but there's many like it. But that's just one example, but I'll yield the floor to my teammates.
Yeah, some other examples of recruiting and retaining talent. From a Navy perspective, the CNO and Project 33, what we need to do to accelerate and implement things in the time frame that General Lawrence mentioned. One of those areas is recruiting and retaining talent. So definite, I think, focus from the leadership was a piece of that. When it comes to the cyber workforce, both civilian and military, General Hawk, as a commander of U.S. Cyber Command, had just got approved through the JROC and tank Cybercom 2.0. And as part of Cybercom 2.0 is looking at how at man, train, and equip and force generation to include recruiting and retaining talent in that area. So I think it'll always be a challenge for us, especially the retaining part, you know, when it comes to competing with industry, but we've got some great patriots out there that enjoy the mission and some of the authorities that DoD has to be able to execute some things that they might not normally be able to do. So just educating and getting that word out, I think, is another piece of that.
And I'll just broaden it beyond the military. Very important. We want to target the uniformed folks in the most critical positions that should be done by the military, and then augment that staff with civilians with skill sets. And we have the cyber accepted service, cyber service, which is also about more effectively managing our cyber IT and data folks, and we've got a lot of work to do there to ensure that they've got the right training and certification that comes in real time, not something that you have to wait for a long period of time, and that we make sure we understand their skill sets and we maneuver them in the right place. We see ourselves as a government-owned, government-operated, contract-supported kind of entity in this space, especially because of the cyber threat. And the contract-supported piece is just as critical, that those are skill sets that we are, if we can't get them and we can't grow them inside, we will buy them, and they will be an integral part of our warfighting operation.
Okay, this has been too much fun. We only have time for 2 more questions, so we'll go here first and then here second. So thank you very much, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Corporal Long, Cybersecurity Tech, 1st Marine Division. I just wanted to ask, how are we investing into Marines and sailors for creating applications in-house in the Marine Corps or in the Navy to meet warfighters' needs? If I wanted to code a program to help my community or another community, how would I go about, implementing that and getting it across the Marine Corps and even in the Navy or the Coast Guard as well?
Yeah, you start. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, great question, and I'm glad you asked. I'd certainly like to get your name and number afterwards because we do have some opportunities. We've done some things over the last couple years. One example is under the Commandant's leadership, we invested and stood up a Marine Innovation Unit. Think about that, a Marine Innovation Unit. You're like, what is that? Well, can you join that? Can you be a part of that effort? Absolutely. It is really headquarters out of New York, but the Marines that support that effort are all across the country. And so there are ways that, based on great thoughts and ideals that you have, perhaps you can be a part of that unit as well, because we're looking for that sort of talent. The second one I'll give you is under General Glavy, my predecessor's leadership. He stood up, the team stood up, the Marine Corps Software Factory. That is an effort that we partnered, we'll leverage the talent down at Futures Command from the Army down in Texas, Houston, Texas, and a small cadre of individuals that really like to solve complex problems are part of that unit. We've mapped some structure. It is a pilot program. The Commandant has charged me now take that pilot. If it's successful, where does it go? Perhaps you can help me to solve that problem as well. So there's many more examples. I'm sure my teammates have some, but I appreciate the question as well.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that. This is what we want. We want there to be software developers at the keyboard, at the tactical edge. That's going to happen in the future. I think most people understand that's where we need to drive to, especially when we are putting trained models at the edge that are going to suck in new sensor data, and someone's got to make a tweak to that model because of the situation at hand. And so I envision that as the future. I think what the General talked about are good examples of where the Marines are leading forward in creating opportunity. The other thing I would say is that from my lane, my goal is to get to a strong IT ecosystem where DevSecOps environments are available to be used that don't have to be built for a particular purpose, so that you could leverage them and build software for unique needs. Now, I'm going to caveat that by saying I could do that all day long, and then I have a bunch of software programs and software capabilities that are not supported or scaled. And so we have to balance with that innovation with how we, when we see something really good that came out of what you did, how do we make it a permanent part of our ecosystem where it needs to be?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Sarah Mirabal-Des with One Make Us One. My question to you is, how are you going to compete against the civilian sector when attracting those individuals with more experience and skills?
You want to take it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a challenge. So I think we acknowledge that's a challenge. That goes to kind of the retaining talent. One aspect of that, I think, is the type of work that we do within the federal government, and whether you're in uniform or civilian, depending on the organization you're working with, there are some authorities you have that you can do things that are commercial partners cannot do, right? Legally cannot do. So I think that's one aspect. I think another aspect is how we bring in folks. An opportunity to, let's say, innovate our hiring practices maybe. What skill sets are we looking for? And not making that hiring making it more efficient, I should say, so that we can bring folks in with the right talent more quickly. Retaining the talent is always going to be a challenge, but as I walk around the floor here, folks that have either retired or left the military, it's very comforting to see that talent is still working in support of the Department of Defense, but just on the other side, of the federal government side. So leadership, senior leaders are aware of that. So as the CNO is one of her focus areas for Project 33 is recruiting and retaining talent. So she's got the manpower, the recruiting and outreach, public affairs, things we are doing to get out to areas of the country that is not aware of what, in this case, the U.S. Navy or the Marine Corps does to try to find that talent across the country.
Hey, can I just quickly add to finish up here? And I think it's a phenomenal question. And I agree with my colleague here. I don't really see it as a competition. Let's be clear. None of us joined the Marine Corps to get rich. You didn't. And the last I checked, it's still an all-volunteer service. So there is something deep inside of us that really drives us and wants us. We want to be something bigger than ourselves. And to the Admiral's point, I think there's a natural intersection between what we do in the military and our industry partners. And the partnership is a thing, once you get out of uniform, we would love that you continue to work for industry, but continue to work on the very hard, complex problems to help us all be successful. And so we know that we can't compete dollar value, but we do think that we have to reward you with some things, maybe PCS orders, maybe incentive pay. We gave you an example of how we're bringing that talent in. And certainly if you have other thoughts to help us get there, there's a certain segment of the population we know that absolutely knows and loves to be Marines. And I'll just tell you, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, I don't know, almost 38 years ago. I just keep forgetting to get out because I'm having so much fun. But appreciate your question.
And just one thing that was well said, very well said. I see a lot of fluidity. I have many reservists working for us right now who wanted to come back in uniform, and based on skills, I have a guy working for me that works for Google and right now is sitting in my office helping us deploy our next capability. I do see that there are lots of different opportunities and ways in the future to come back and forth, more so than we have in the past, especially in this area. And that benefits us too. When you get some outside experience and bring that back in. Roland, the gentleman who introduced us from, Maximus? He used to work for us in acquisition, and so he decided he wanted to do it in the industry for a while. I can guarantee you he'll probably come back to us. So there's a lot of ways to serve, a lot of ways to stay engaged, as the general said, with the military if you decide to get out, but you will never get closer to the most exciting, most sexy part of the business, closer than you are now. So, thank you.
What a blessing, panel. I wasn't expecting this today, but what a great discussion. To our industry partners out there, talking to us old people and those who have been there, done that, we'll tell you what we think, but you'll really hear the right story and the needs for the requirements from those that we're going to recognize here this afternoon. So thank you all. Congratulations. Thank you for your service. And to my panel, I really appreciate your thoughts. We didn't plan it this way, but I still think we got to the message. And so we appreciate all that you do. So please join me in recognizing this distinguished panel.
General Lawrence, esteemed panelists, Ms. Rathbun, General Carter, Admiral Shun Kiao, thank you for taking time to be with us today. And shortly I will present you with a token of appreciation from AFCEA International and the United States Naval Institute for joining us at West 2025. It's a Naval Institute press book entitled Cyberspace in Peace and War. It's the second edition of that book by Martin Libicki. Let me give you these books, and then I just have a couple more remarks. Now, there's still a lot of activity happening around the building for the remainder of the day. I ask you to consult the app or look on the web to see what's going on. I'd like to particularly highlight the Women in AFCEA Appreciation event that is at 4:30 or 16:30 at the primary stage downstairs in the exhibit area. I'd also like to remind everyone to take part in the networking happy hour that will be around 3:45 in the exhibit areas. That's sponsored by Cloudera. And I ask you to stop by and thank them in their booth, 4314, here in the sales pavilion. Again, I want to thank Maximus for sponsoring our panel, and to all of our panelists for their participation. Now, before we ask the panelists to depart the stage, we do have a brief presentation. Each year at West, Naval Institute and AFCEA recognize those military members, those that you see out in front of me today, who were selected by their command for particularly superior service in the past year. We call this enlisted superior performers. I'd like to call up Scott McBride, Director of Membership and Marketing at the Naval Institute, to the stage to recognize this year's enlisted superior performers.
Good afternoon. Navy, where you at? Navy, where you at? Marines, where you at? That's what I'm talking about. All right. Good afternoon, sailors and Marines. Welcome to the Enlisted Superior Performer Award Ceremony for West 2025. My name is Scott McBride, and it is my distinct honor and privilege to help recognize the men and women of our sea services that are here today. Each year at West, the Naval Institute and AFCEA International recognizes those sailors, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen from the local San Diego area who have been selected by their commands for superior service in the past year. Each of you represents not only the best within your respective commands, but you also represent the best that our nation has to offer. As an enlisted superior performer, you'll receive a free one-year membership to the U.S. Naval Institute and AFCEA International. To the command representatives who are here today, thank you for nominating these outstanding men and women. To the families, friends, and colleagues who are here to support your enlisted superior nominee, thank you for your love, support, and belief in them. As a proud Coast Guard and Navy veteran, I know firsthand that a service member cannot do it alone. To the enlisted superior performers, I extend my heartfelt congratulations to each of you, and thank you for your continued service to our nation. In a few moments, I will display each command represented here today on the slide. When you see your command and name, please rise so we can recognize you. Congrats again. Beginning with the enlisted superior performers from the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing, Marine Corps Air Station Yuma, and Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, please rise. You may be seated. Will the enlisted superior performers from the 1st Marine Division and 1st Marine Expeditionary Force please rise? Thank you. You may be seated. Will the enlisted superior performers from the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force Information Group, Marine Corps Installation West, Marine Corps Communications Electronics School, Marine Corps Tactical Systems Support Activity, Marine Corps Recruit Depot Western Recruit Region, and the Wounded Warrior Battalion West please rise? Thank you. You may be seated. Will the enlisted superior performers from Naval Air Force, U.S. Pacific Fleet, and Naval Surface Force, U.S. Pacific Fleet, please rise? Thank you. You may be seated. Will the enlisted superior performers from Carrier Strike Group 15, Tactical Training Group Pacific, Commander Navy Region Southwest, Naval Information Warfare Systems Command, Naval Facilities Command Southwest, please rise? Thank you. You may be seated. Will the enlisted superior performers from Navy Submarine Development Squadron 5, USS Asheville and USS Scranton please rise? Thank you. You may be seated. Although they are not here today, I do want to recognize the enlisted superior performers from Coast Guard Maritime Security Response Team West and Coast Guard Sector San Diego. If you could please give them a round of applause. Congratulations, enlisted superior performers, on a job well done. Thank you for your service.
Okay, this concludes everything. We're just going to ask the superior performers to come up in the front of the stage to take a picture with some senior folks from your service. And this concludes everything. Thank you for your participation today.